she would get up and load those suppliers up. I would come in there to check on her, and she'd be on top of that forklift driving that thing around, and those old rough carpet layers would just treat her like a princess. You know, they were good.
Kenny Green, remember Kenny?
Oh yeah.
I used
Kenny
him
Green
yesterday.
and his
You know
son.
how old he is?
No.
75. He said
that right?
yesterday. He came to stretch some carpet for me. What happened to his son?
That would be, well, there was Jenny, and then there was another one. I don't remember the other one's name.
Kenny
That's
Jr., I think, yeah.
I don't remember what happened to him.
I'm not sure what happened to him.
But they were good to my mother-in-law.
Kenny's a great guy.
Yeah.
So A.J. Lawson was your father-in-law.
He was.
I never put that together. Now, they live down on Wilkerson Road, somewhere out that way?
Yeah.
Morgan Road?
They live on Morgan Road.
Morgan Road.
Which is where Angie and I live now. Or Angie and I moved into that house a couple years ago.
Morgan, how you get there? You go down?
You go out Chatta Valley Road.
Chatta Valley Road.
Turn right on Cates Lane. Going out towards Morris Vineyard. First road on the left is Morgan.
See, I ride bicycles there.
Oh, okay.
Me and Alvin Calhoun.
Yes.
You see us out there any?
I know. Well, there's a guy that works for me that rides out there, and I see him from time to time.
Which is who?
His name's Todd Sparks. Once in a while, I'll see Todd, and he lives over off Benton Pike, or he used to.
Well, we ride down Chatta Valley all the time.
Oh,
Very rarely do we go by the vineyard, and usually on down and take a ride on Baker Bridge Road.
Right.
So we don't go. But sometimes we go down Morgan. That's a steep hill.
It is.
If you're coming from Upper River Road, I mean, it's
all downhill. Just about.
But once you get up that hill on a hot day, it's brutal.
Yeah, when you get up that hill at Morgan Road, you're right there at AJ and Kathy's.
Do the Blairs live out there? Remember the Blair triplets?
He lives about 4 houses down from me on the left as it's meeting up with Old Bacon Road. Yeah, he's still out there.
Yeah.
They were in my class.
Well, mine too, at Cleveland.
Yeah, we were in the same year.
Yeah. The triplets.
They were. There was 3 of them.
Remember when they got in a fight with Danny McCutcheon?
I forgot about him. If they weren't fighting you, they were fighting for you. You just had to figure out what side you were on, you know.
I stayed on their good side.
Oh, I did too.
Whatever happened to all 3 of them?
Well,
one of them finishes concrete.
Yeah, and that's the one that lives down the road from me.
Yeah.
And I hired him one time to come and pour driveway for me, and he did great. It was fun.
No problem?
No. But I haven't talked to him in probably over 30 years. He still lives down the road from me.
So you went to Cleveland Junior?
I did.
Same place I did.
I was a Cleveland Junior High guy. I came there from Stewart School. I grew up in that neighborhood over there over near Stewart School. That was and that was Angie's neighborhood too. We knew each other since we were
Is the
children.
subdivision right beside Stewart?
Well, that's where Angie lived. Angie lived on the corner of 23rd Street, which is the street that runs between the old Long John Silver's and First Citizens Bank. She lived right at the edge of that in Kiker Bonner Avenue.
Yeah.
So when Westwood Baptist built that, the church, they kind of backed up to AJ and Kathy's house.
That's right.
And I walked home from Stewart School down Kiker Bonner Avenue and up behind Westwood. Then I crossed Peerless, and I lived right over in that, Hickory Drive, Glenwood
Hickory Drive, yeah.
That's where I lived.
Well, my cousins lived on Brentwood Drive, and we would walk from Stewart School, cross Peerless, cross right there at that church, and go through Hickory Drive to the back of their house.
And that was
Brentwood Drive.
That was probably what? The Gobbles?
The Gobbles.
Okay, Tim and Tony lived down there, and then Jim Baldry lived down from them.
Jim Baldry, yeah.
Those are all friends of mine.
I hadn't heard of Jim Baldry's name in years.
Oh, I still keep up with him.
Now, they lived next to the Boyds.
Could be, and I didn't know the Boyds.
They were a little older than us. So when did you come you're originally from what, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, how'd you know that?
I got a good
my
memory.
Parents moved to Cleveland, Tennessee in 1972. And
so you were 7, 6?
I was pretty young. I was born in December of '66.
Do you remember where you lived in Pennsylvania? Do you remember anything about it?
Yeah. We lived, most of my relatives on both mom and dad's side lived up near Lake Erie, right up on the northwest corner of the state.
But do you remember, knowing that you came here when you were 6, how much do we remember prior to being 6?
Not a lot. I remember, that's my hometown. That's where all of my aunts, uncles, cousins, and really my roots are up there. But my parents had 6 children, and Dad was selling material handling equipment at the time and was traveling a little bit. He traveled through the South, and he thought, man, it's just beautiful down here. He pulled off at exit 25 and stayed in a hotel and called on a customer in Chattanooga and got to looking around the place, and he said, man, I just like it here. He told my mom, and my mom, we moved in 1972.
Did he change jobs or stay with the same job?
He stayed with the same job for a while.
Because it was traveling salesman, I guess.
It was, but with 6 kids, and the oldest one was, I guess Debbie was 15 or 16 at the time. I have 5 sisters. I'm the youngest. So there's 6 of us. And there was just a little bit more opportunity down here, and the winters were pretty brutal up on Lake Erie, and I think Mom and Dad wanted to change, and we loved Cleveland, Tennessee.
Were they always from Pennsylvania?
Yeah, that's where
So that was a big change for them.
It was a huge change, Dee, and they still, if you were to meet, Mom and Dad are both deceased now, but my dad, he carried that northern accent with him his whole life.
Never did lose it?
No, he became a Bowater guy and spent the rest of his career at Bowater and loved it,
Did you go to kindergarten here?
No, I was kindergarten up north, but when I came down here, we bought a house in Cleveland out off of Southlake Highway in what was called West Meade subdivision at the time, back there behind the Dairy Queen.
On the left,
it was
Victory
a brand
Drive.
new subdivision right off Victory Drive.
Yep.
It's, of course, that neighborhood's still there.
Yeah.
And we only lived in that house for just a short period of time, long enough to get a bigger house. And that's when we moved over to Hickory Drive, and we all became Stewart School and Cleveland Junior High, Bradley High kids.
Do you remember Mr. Kiker?
Yeah, that was my principal.
Yeah. See, I went there the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade.
I loved Stewart School.
Who did you have? Do you remember?
My most memorable teacher I had at Stewart was my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Heiberger. I had Ramona Heiberger.
My brother had her.
3rd grade, and I had a guy named Mr. King in the 4th grade. He was a long-time educator. I had Miss Miller, Miss Samples, Miss Painter, Miss Smith.
So you went there like 6 years or 5?
I did, yeah. Well, I went from 2nd through 6th, but when I talk about those teachers, those are just teachers that Angie had as well, that we always talked about. Angie and I had a lot of just growing up in the same church in the same neighborhood.
Did you know her then?
I did, yeah. Angie was a year older than me, and my parents knew her parents, and we went to the same church there in the neighborhood at Westwood Baptist. And so Dee, really growing up with a lot of the same childhood influences and friends was something unique in our marriage that a lot of people didn't have,
Do you think it's important to be married to somebody extremely equally yoked like y'all were? You were born in the same church, raised the same religion, same type of family.
Well, Dee, it was important for me. I didn't realize it until after. Some people travel halfway around the world to find the girl they're going to marry, and I just had to travel down the street. There was Angie, and I can't imagine it any other way. I really can't. But if you had told me back then, hey, little red-haired Angie Lawson,
you wouldn't have thought nothing about it.
No, I would have said, well, she's untouchable. I'm just in the 4th grade. She's in the
When did the sparks fly?
Not till after high school, after college. No, I lost track of her. I didn't know her much during our high school years. After junior high, I went to Bradley. She stayed at Cleveland. And we were 1 year together at Cleveland High, and then I went to Bradley.
So you don't really even see each other? Or
No. But, of course, my family knew her family. AJ and Kathy being business owners in Cleveland. Yeah. And knew my parents. But she went to UT, graduated, and got a degree in finance. came back to Cleveland and started working. And I went to UTC and had no idea what I was going to do, but started working for UPS and liked it. And I decided I was going to move back to Cleveland also, just to try to figure out what I was going to do. I was making decent money and liked what I was doing, but I still had to have 2 jobs. And I ran into her, and everything just worked out from there, you know.
Where'd you meet her when you came back?
Well, when I guess I met her at First Baptist Church. I started going there just because my best friend was going there.
Yeah.
And my best friend was engaged to be married. His name's David Clark.
I know David.
And David and I had not, we'd been apart since high school because I'd been going to school. He'd been building houses.
Yeah.
And so I get reunited with David. He said, hey, he said, you know, my fiance, Candy, we're getting married. And he said, guess who her roommate is? I said, who? And he said, you remember Angie Lawson? And I went, yes, I do. I do. He said, man.
And you hadn't seen her, hadn't?
No, no. So we began dating, and it was really nice, Dee, to be able to, you know, tell my parents or my sisters to bring Angie Lawson home, you know, was really nice instead of, well, this is a girl you've never met, you know.
Right,
I was able
yeah.
to say.
She had street cred.
Yeah, she did. She did, and my parents loved her instantly, and so did the rest of my family.
I know this is, I hate to bring this up, but she passed away this year, right?
She did. She died about 7 months ago.
Boy, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, it was tough. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in stage 4, and we had a good prognosis for about a year, and we had a great year, Dee. I mean, we did a lot of things we wanted to do, and her treatments weren't that difficult on her, but we always knew that when it would hit pretty hard, and it did, and I lost her in January. But I'm so grateful for the time we had together. And
did y'all ever argue at all?
Yeah, we did.
That goes along with it, doesn't it?
We did. We no, you know, not a lot, and she won most of those. It just wasn't worth it. I hated to. I just go, you know what? That's fine.
That's just part of it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Arguing.
we had a really typical marriage. We disagreed. We bickered at each other, but I'm just so grateful. We had so many good times. We got along great. I just worshiped her, and there's no other word for it. I loved her to death, and she taught me a lot about how to live, and I admired and respected her so much.
You think she's looking down on us now?
I believe that. I do. I have the very, very hard days. I wake up and she's everywhere. She's all I think about, and I have very, very hard days. But the gratitude I feel for the time that we had together is the magic bullet for me. I just look around at my blessings and I go, man, I got so much to be grateful for, and this life's a gift, and I don't intend to waste it. So that's where I'm at.
We have to live for the living.
Yeah, we do. We do. She was wonderful and beautiful and young and touched so many people. Angie was a lifelong educator. About the time we started dating, we were talking about the future, and she said, I really don't like finance. I just did it, and I really want to be a school teacher. And
Isn't it something that you have to decide what you want to do before you're 20?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's so hard, isn't it? People go in the wrong directions, don't they?
They do. But it was very natural for Angie to go right into Dr. Donald Yates' office and say, and she just walked in, introduced herself, and said, I want to be a school teacher. And that's literally the way it happened. Less than 24 hours later, she was standing in a classroom.
Is that right?
At Blythe Elementary. And she stayed there for 27 years.
27 years. she saw the new renovation and all that, I guess.
She did. Yeah, it was the old Blythe Avenue Elementary, and I helped her. We loaded up. I started working 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to put her through school to get her teaching degree. This was in '95.
Why did you have to get a teaching degree?
Well,
Because
she had a finance degree, but with a bachelor's degree, she was able to start student teaching right away.
Oh.
And she started doing that, but she went back and got certified to teach. And we loaded up her little Saab hatchback with, all of her textbooks and all of her things for the little classroom. And drove over to that school, and I backed up to the front door, started carrying boxes, and it was an exciting time.
Did you ever eat at Cope's?
Cope's Cafeteria, yeah.
Cafeteria.
Down on King Edward Avenue, and yeah.
Did you eat there while she was working there, I guess? Because they were in full swing then.
No, I didn't. Not then, but my father-in-law would go over there from time to time. This is what he used to tell me.
Yeah, AJ.
He'd say if his tractor ever tore up or his bulldozer ever tore up, he'd go over to Cope's Cafeteria and talk to somebody, and they'd tell him how to fix it, because all those contractors would be over there.
Yeah, and they had they had an air conditioner in the window, and you couldn't hear anybody talk.
I bet that old building's probably still over there.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure it didn't make it through the pandemic, but I think maybe it was going until then. They had a asbestos floor tile, and asbestos is real strong, but they had been there so long there was holes in the asbestos tile.
Oh my gosh.
At the cash register. They had good food.
I remember Cope's. I remember Wooten's Cafeteria too.
Wooten's, I remember Wooten's.
You remember Angie and I used to go to the Earl's restaurant downtown.
Earl's,
We would go in there and get a
they
slice
had
of
the
pie.
best hamburgers.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was, but they had the best hamburgers.
Cleveland, Tennessee was a fun place to grow up, though. I really liked it.
Your dad knew what he was doing.
He did, and when you look back now on my family's history and 6 children that all met their their mate here in Cleveland and are still married and all doing well.
And he was uprooting 5. You had not gotten really ingrained in
Not
Pennsylvania.
really.
The others more so.
I was just a kid. The only thing I remember about that move was I wanted to ride in the front of that U-Haul, 700 miles from Pennsylvania down here. But
what did you graduate in at Chattanooga? What was your major?
I just majored in business. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, Dee. It was about 19. I went there. I went to Cleveland State first, got a degree there. A little associate's
2-year
degree.
thing?
Yeah. Didn't know what I wanted to do.
Who does? I still don't know.
And I think my parents, by the time I come along, I was number 6. They were ready for that house to be empty. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of I wasn't spoiled as far as money goes. We didn't have any money, but I just figured I was a good kid and I'd be all right, and
mm-hmm.
I started, I had the opportunity to go to UT Chattanooga, moved to Chattanooga, and I said, let me do that. I want to do that. Still didn't know what I wanted to do. And back then, job postings were either in the newspaper or on a bulletin board at the school, You'd go into the job placement center.
At UTC?
At UTC.
So when you moved down there, did you just go live? Did your parents pay for the apartment, or did you have to come?
They did, provided I kept my grades up. And so I went away and joined a fraternity and decided I was going to do that, which was silly. I didn't like it. It wasn't me. But I took a part-time job working at a law firm in downtown Chattanooga. And one of the people that worked at the law firm's husband was a manager at UPS. And I started doing odd jobs for them, mowing the lawn, washing their cars, doing stuff like that. And he said, hey, would you ever want to work at UPS? And I thought, that sounds kind of hard, but yeah, I'll do that.
Right then, how old had UPS been?
Well, UPS was founded in 1907 in Seattle, Washington.
But when do we remember seeing UPS trucks around?
Not till at least the mid '80s to the late 90s.
Why that long? It just took them that long to grow?
Well, it took them that long to expand. I mean, they started as a bicycle messenger company in Seattle, Washington, 1907, and you were literally delivering messages And, you know, hey, this guy's got to go on this. They'd send out 10 bicycles across Seattle, and that's how they got started. Pretty soon it became department stores. They'd start going in department stores and taking parcels. Then they bought their first Model T in about 1914, and the fleet kind of grew from there.
And so in the early 80s, they finally came here.
Finally, yeah.
What was here before?
You just got it by the post office.
I don't remember anything. I don't remember it being anything.
And then in 1985, UPS started doing red label overnight service, and FedEx took that business model and decided, they can have all that ground stuff. We're just going to focus on this one thing.
The letters. You were pulling that tape
and
off.
They did it so well that, their name became synonymous with overnight delivery. Well, you can just FedEx it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, well, you can just Xerox this.
Yeah. Put on a Band-Aid.
Yeah. So we originated that, but they really took it and did it better than we did. So we've been trying to catch up with that ever since. But other things that we do, I think we do better.
So did you have to ride it? You was actually a delivery guy.
Well, not at first. I had to start out coming to work at 4 a.m. and loading trucks on a dock.
In Chattanooga.
Which I was living in a fraternity house, so I might as well have gone to work anyway. Everybody was up, except for, I was able to still go to classes during the day because I'd work 4 a.m. to about 8 a.m, try to grab a quick shower, get into class. But all my friends that were waiting tables or bartending, whatever, they were doing that at night, and I was off,
But why even work?
Well, I worked because I was I had bills to pay. I was a young guy trying to get started, trying to buy a car, trying to convince my parents that I was going to make something of myself. But the company I was working for, UPS, I will tell anybody this, it was more important to me from a self-discipline standpoint than it was a paycheck. Somebody making me come to work at 4 a.m, holding me accountable to be there every day. I liked the discipline of it, and I liked the hard work of it. And I looked at what I could do there, and I've been there 34 years now.
Did you think, hey, I could go further in this place?
I did.
When did you think, you know what, I believe I like it here?
I had been there probably, I hated it at first because it was just hard. It was just hard.
Yeah.
But I saw that, hey, they had this thing called tuition assistance. And I thought, wait a minute, they could put me through school. If I'd go back, if I'd finish my bachelor's, they'll pay for it. And I did that. So they did. And I went into management. After I was a driver for about 10 years, and then I went into management.
Was that a long 10 years?
No, looking back on it, Dee, it was about 94 to 2004. It was a quick 10 years to me. I loved being a delivery driver.
Did you have to wear seat belts?
Absolutely, yeah.
How'd they get out of the car so fast? They just...
Well, we teach our drivers methods that get them in and out of that vehicle safely and quickly, because we don't make any money if that guy's sitting in the seat. So as you approach, and when I was there, as you approach, you'd have one foot on the clutch, you go in lowest forward gear. You would apply that park brake, put that thing in gear. With this hand, you would reach over, undo your seatbelt. With this hand, you would pull out the key. You would make one turn, put it in the bulkhead door, open the door, select that package, clear your walkway, and get out and deliver.
What do you mean clear the walkway?
Well, you got to look and see where you're going. Yeah, you got to make sure you're not stepping in a ditch.
Because everything's about time.
It is.
You couldn't have a guy say, well, where's my keys?
And we got really fast. We got really fast at what we call those in-the-car methods, in the cab routine. Taking that key out of the bulkhead, getting in, getting out. We got really fast at it.
How many would you deliver, like 20 a day or 70?
Well, you might be surprised. It depends on the characteristics of that route you're running. If I was in North Cleveland, today the guy that delivers North Cleveland, this area, gets about 180 delivery stops a day.
In what, 8 hours?
Yeah, 8.5 hours.
So that's...
Yeah, and you get about 30 of those are probably our pickup stops where you stop, back up the dock, and get packages. but it's built on efficiency and safety, and they're very good.
They've got to be moving, don't they?
Oh, they're moving. Ask anybody. And it's it was a fun job. Now, it was a hard job physically.
You get to listen to the radio?
Well, back then, most of the trucks were diesel. I couldn't hear that radio. Plus, it kind of distracted me. I tried to stay very focused.
Were you driving in Chattanooga?
I did. I drove in Chattanooga, and then later when I went in management, I came here to the Cleveland Center in about 2012.
But you were driving in Chattanooga.
I was.
When you really didn't know. If you were driving in Cleveland, it'd be a little bit easier because you kind of know Cleveland. But being in Chattanooga, you were really.
Well, I got to know the Chattanooga area pretty well. I mean, once you spend a day on a UPS route, you just pick it up. You learn the businesses, you learn the streets, how they intersect, and plus with our dispatching system, your truck is loaded in the order that you come across that street. So somebody has to load the trucks to be this is the first out. That's what I did every day for those first few years that Angie and I were married. I went in at 4:00 and I had 4 trucks that I loaded, and I knew, TVA goes on the back right-hand corner and DuPont goes on the left-hand side, and then and that's how I loaded the truck. And those drivers every day, when they would open that bulkhead door and go in the package compartment, they'd put their hand on that top shelf. They knew what those deliveries were.
Are they supposed to look at it and double check?
Of course, yeah.
But that'd take a second.
It does. You do that after
little writing and stuff.
Yeah, you do that after you clear your walkway. You verify it on your way in the door, and you scan it on your way to the door. Knock and say UPS, and put that package in a secure location, and then you go back to the truck and start it up, and you do it all over again.
Does it get chaotic? It seems to me like it'd make you a little nervous.
It's very chaotic. Yeah, it's chaotic because it's there's a lot going on there with that UPS driver. He's not just driving around waving at people.
No, he's looking at red lights. He's checking he's checking the time.
He is. He's trying to stay on schedule. He's trying to meet the demands of whatever that customer is. He's trying to get home to his kid's ball game.
Yeah, that's the other problem.
He's trying to keep from getting hit by somebody that's on their cell phone. They're professionals. They really are. And that was my job for years, was to train those drivers. And I loved it. I really did.
Well, so you just wanted to get off the road?
Well,
the delivery, was you saying like, I've had enough of this?
Yes, to a point. Yeah, it's difficult on you physically. It's kind of hard on your knees. Of course, I was still a young guy, but I saw more opportunity on the management side of it. They were asking me to go in management. They were giving me, they were painting a pretty good picture for me. So I knew I couldn't do it without my college degree. I had stopped college at one point to get married and to be a full-time UPS driver, and I kind of had promised my parents, hey, I will go back and finish college. I promised them that, and I made good on that.
Do you think you had to get that before they'd advance you at UPS?
Well, at the time it wasn't required, but I could read the writing on the wall. I knew that at some point they would require that college degree, and I needed it. I wanted it. And
it was close. You only
it took me 2 years, but I went back and did that, and even though in the overall scheme of things, it might not look like that big a deal, but it was a big deal to me. It was a big deal to me to finish something that I started.
It's almost like you're catching things up.
I was.
Because you might have felt like you had you ever walk out of a room and think, I forgot something, can't think of what it is.
Yeah.
So that was probably like that. Oh, I didn't finish that college degree.
It was something I knew that at some point I would have children, and I wanted them to be able to say, hey, this is what your mom did, and this is what I did. And you don't have to do that these days. I don't mean that. I don't mean every kid's got to go to college. But my parents made a great deal of sacrifices for 6 children.
And you'd gone halfway. You couldn't stop at that point.
Yeah, I just had to do it. I had to do it, and I'm so glad I did.
Chattanooga it's better living in Cleveland than Chattanooga, isn't it?
I like it better here. I like it. Now, right now, my job is in Chattanooga. I drive back and forth every day just because that's where my career is taking me. But I'm closing the door there. I've been at UPS 34 years, and I'll be there for another 3 weeks. So
3 weeks?
Yeah, I'm going on to something else.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just stay there another 10 years?
Well, obviously, my life circumstances have changed now. But I became eligible for retirement a couple months ago, and made it a matter of prayer and tried not to make a decision based out of emotion, But
yeah,
I've got some opportunities to do some other things, and I think I'm going to do it. So,
is it a tough decision for you?
Not a tough decision. It's one I feel good about, but it's a big decision. And I talk to some smart people. I talk to people whose opinion I respect. And leaving there, I always wanted to go out on my terms and go out with my head held up, feeling good about what I've done. And I'm really proud of it,
35 years, that's a long time.
It's kind of a long time.
How do they let somebody that's been there 35 years leave after they've given them all that training? I'd try to keep you for another,
Well, we've got smart young people ready to take my place, but I'm in a different position now. I train tractor trailer drivers now, and do safety and compliance and stuff like that. So I'm kind of out of the door to door game now.
Do you think back when you were doing it, you didn't have UPS or GPS to tell you where to go?
Yeah, we had paper maps. The kind you could buy at a gas station.
Atlas?
Yeah, absolutely. And it would say, if I didn't know where Brentwood Drive was, I got this map book and it's spiral bound, or it'd be a paper map and I have to unfold the thing and find the key and go down to Brentwood. It'd say C7, then I go up to C, go to 7, and I put my fingers together and go, okay. And then I go drive to it.
That's what allows people to do so many stops now versus when you were doing it.
Yeah. Because, now our drivers have a thing called a cradle, which is, a device much like a cell phone that sits near their dash that gives them turn-by-turn directions on where your driveway is. So it won't just bring you to 4060 North Ocoee. It'll put you right at the last location that you scan that package, which would be your back door or whatever,
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
Is King of Queens, is it like a UPS driver? When we're watching King of Queens, the IPS driver.
It's a good representation of it.
Yeah.
It kind of introduced the job that I did for years to the masses, and it did. And I think it reflected well on it. Our company's stance is, we like that. We like that.
Yeah, because they could have called it UPS.
No, they probably could have. I don't know. But
if I was UPS, I would have tried to get them to name it UPS instead of IPS.
Well, the stuff that he would go through every day is the same thing my guys go through. Same thing I went through every day. And even right down to going in the locker room and, comparing your day with the guy next to you the way you did. It's a great show. I really like it.
Do you think that when did Amazon start?
Oh, that's a great question. I remember when they started with books and CDs and things like that. I never dreamed.
When they were starting with books and CDs, nothing on your. In other words, your job as a UPS guy did it see anything different when they were CDs and books? No,
they were just another vendor, and now they are pretty much the big guy at the table.
That was almost overnight, wasn't it? I mean, I don't even remember.
No, it happened so quickly. It did. A major portion of my job working in tractor trailers is just serving that one company. I mean, if they call me and say, we need 4 trailers, I do it right then, you know. I serve them a lot.
So that was a customer that became the boss, in a sense.
Pretty much. And they have the capability to, they're not really our boss, but we you know, as closely as we work with them, their volume dictates a lot of our volume. I mean, if you stand, you know, we all know what those packages look like. You know, in the brown cardboard box with the black Amazon tape with the blue writing on it.
With arrow.
Absolutely. If you open the back of one of our trucks going down North Ocoee Street in the year 2022, I would say at least 40%, maybe 50% of the boxes on that truck are Amazon boxes. So it's bigger than I ever thought it would be.
I'll look up something online, decide I want to buy it, and then I go to Amazon to order it. When I could just order it from that company.
Yeah.
But they've got my credit card and everything's in sync with it.
And then they're suggesting to you, hey, customers that bought that might buy this. I think that's where they've really been smart.
I would have never, when we were growing up, we would have never dreamed that, would we?
No, I mean, you can get specialized individual components for that bike you just showed me with just moving your thumb. So you don't have to go hunting for it anymore.
And probably delivered Tuesday.
Probably so. But, you know, that company itself, their business model has so far outpaced, you know, the growth is so far outpaced it that they really could do anything at I mean, if they wanted to come in and just say, we're going to build our own airline, we're going to start moving around, and we don't need UPS any longer. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but it sure could. They've got so much cash, you know.
But they probably don't want to, like me being a contractor, I don't want to lay the bricks.
Right.
You know, I'd rather hire that done because there's more problems that go along with delivering packages than they would even know.
Oh yeah, we hear things like that from them, and all of us just kind of go, yeah, you just try, you know, you see what it's like out there, that kind of thing. But I pray that it doesn't happen. I want the company I worked for years to be successful.
UPS is, wonder where they decided to wear brown.
Well, it's called Pullman Brown. That's the name of that color. And, you know, of course, I told you the company was founded in 1907. So back in that day, railroad travel was in its early days. Railroad passenger travel was in its early days. In fact, it was a pretty wealthy way to travel. And the Pullman cars are where the luggage and personal effects went. And on a locomotive car, those were always painted brown. So that's where they came up with brown. I don't know that they called it Pullman Brown. I don't know that they ever sat down and had a big focus group meeting with it. But
it's clever, wasn't it?
It's pretty clever. I mean, it has been synonymous. I have so many things branded brown that are hanging in my closet, you know.
I bet, yeah.
Uniform items and accessories. It's just,
you have to wash them at home, or can you send them to the cleaner, or to like a gas station? They have a cleaning service. Does that have that for UPS, or do they have to take them home?
We have a cleaning service that comes in and will launder for us, but for the most part, drivers just come to work and leave work in their uniform. I think they'd rather do it at home. Most of them.
Rather than take it home.
Yeah, but the uniform standards have always been something I've been proud of with our company, and it's we have had to relax those in about the last 5 to 6 years just due to the workforce. But you know
You mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, we did not allow anybody to wear a beard. Your mustache was not permitted to come below the corners of your mouth. Your hair couldn't touch your collar.
Like military.
We had no tattoos, no things like that. In fact, when I first started as a driver, we had just begun permitting them to wear shorts, but it was just pants only. So,
golly,
that's how long I've been around.
Is the workforce, do you see it real bad too? Getting help?
Yes. Yeah, it's a little bit harder now to get younger folks to do the job. But the ones that do give me a lot of optimism, because they're fine young folks. They really are. It's just, we used to be able to just raise our hand and people would come to us. Now we have to go looking for them. You know.
I think there's a shortage of people. I
Could
mean, as
be.
far as a decline, like a decrease in the
Yeah.
increase of population, if that makes sense.
It could be. I mean, when you look at what our job does, it's still classified as unskilled labor. You don't have to have a college degree for it. But they are making, a fully allocated driver with our company is making, between 85 and
Golly,
$1,000
pretty good
a year
with insurance, right?
Yeah, with full insurance. And that package is worth quite a bit of money. So, I mean, it's an attractive job. It's an attractive job to a lot of folks, but the price that you have to pay to get there that's where we're missing it these days, because we don't have a lot of turnover. So you have to work part-time several years and work some hard, dirty jobs to get the opportunity to do it. That's where guys go, hey, wait a minute, I could go here and do this, or I could remote and work from home and do this. That's where we lose them these days.
In other words, you're not going to walk in and start driving packages. There's a lot of training.
Not yet. Not unless we have a lot more turnover. But the drivers that we have tend to become, they're very loyal to us. And I've always been proud of that.
When you quit going to Cleveland, you went to Cleveland High in the 9th grade?
I did. Yeah, it was about 1981.
And how did you get to Bradley? Because you couldn't ride the bus, right? Because you were in the city.
No, I was right on I had a sister that was 2 years older than me. She graduated Cleveland in 82, or Bradley in 82, and I just ride with her.
So she chose Bradley?
She did. All 5 of my sisters decided to go to Bradley. And of course, me, I was trying to want to be my own guy, and I was just a little freshman, and I said, by gosh, I'm going to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I went to Cleveland. I went there so I could play football.
Yeah.
But man, they were so good, and they were so fast. And I just couldn't make the team. And I thought, well, I bet if I went to Bradley, I could play. And then by the time I got to Bradley, I had just lost interest in it, and I had meeting new people.
And it's so big, too. Bradley
It was
so
big, but I loved both schools. I don't have a bad thing to say about either one of them.
Did you work in high school?
I did, yeah.
Where at?
Well, other than you're kind of, washing cars and mowing lawns, my first job was working as a dishwasher at a pizza place on Keith Street called Happy Days. And it was right across from where Life Care Center of America is now, in that little Northwood Plaza.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I wasn't there long, but I worked there.
As a dishwasher?
As a dishwasher. Rode my 10-speed there.
What nights?
Usually 2 or 3 nights a week, and always on weekends. And I worked there, and then I heard that the grass was greener if I went and worked at a steakhouse. So...
Did you go across the street?
I went over to 25th Street to the Western Steer.
Western Steer, yeah.
Started working there as a dishwasher.
Or was it Western
cook.
Sizzling?
Western Sizzling was there still on Keith Street, right in front of where in front of the Cleveland Mall. But that was Western Sizzling. Their competitor was Western Steer, and that was over on 25th Street, behind the Hardee's, where the
I ate
Mexican
there
place
quite a
is
bit.
now.
Did you dishwash over there too?
I did. I washed dishes there and bus tables long enough to decide that, hey, it's better if I'm a cook, because you make a little bit more. So that's what I did. And I worked that job probably 2 or 3 years till I graduated high school, started going to Cleveland State. And then it was just other little odd jobs. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I really didn't.
Did you ride your bicycle home from the pizza place?
Yeah, I rode it everywhere.
You mean would you work there weekends?
Yeah,
Nights?
yeah. I would ride really, as a young kid in Cleveland, if you had a 10-speed, if you had a bike, it was just freedom, because you could go anywhere at any time of day. I didn't bother anybody. I was not a rough little kid. I went to...
Did you ride back home in the dark?
Yeah, I did that. Because there was 6 kids in my family. There was really no shot at me having my own car. And the only time I could use my dad's truck is if he was on, swing shift and working midnights or days or whatever. You know what I mean?
So
But
you had 5 sisters?
I did. Yeah, I still do.
Boy, what are the odds of that?
Well,
Of having one boy out of 6?
you
You'd
know,
think it'd be 2 and 3 or something.
I have always. We are close. The 6 of us are, and I am the little brother out of 5. And I think people, when they hear that, the way that family's structured, they probably assume I'm very spoiled, or I don't know how to care for myself, or that my parents spoiled me, and I just don't. None of that's true. Mm-hmm. But and then my sisters, they do look after me a little bit. They call me all the time and see if I want to come over to eat, or am I taking care of myself? If I do, after once Angie passed away, but and before that also. But I've always tried in turn to take care of them.
Did you when you went to Cleveland State, you still was working as a cook?
I think so. I'm trying to remember what I did back then. I had a couple little odd jobs around Cleveland. I worked at First American Bank downtown when it was right there on the corner of Inman and Ocoee. I worked there just sweeping floors and I was the mailroom guy. They would send their mail down on a dumbwaiter. I worked in the basement and I would stamp that mail every day. And
do you ever wish you'd have gone into something that was more like a legal or medical or something? We often wonder that. What would our lives
have done?
Yeah, I mean,
Dee, I don't know. I've loved my career. I've enjoyed it. It's really exciting to me now to have the opportunity to do something different. But if you would have asked me, hey, what else would you have done if you hadn't worked at UPS? I look at different things. I think of TV and radio and things like that I would have liked to do. And think, that would have been a lot of fun. But working at a bank, I was proud to say I worked at a bank because that was a nicer job than most of my friends had.
Yeah.
Even though I was just kind of a gopher running around.
But you could have gone further there, I guess.
I could have if I was interested in banking. What I was interested in at the time was just making a little paycheck, But I thought I was hot shot though. I was working downtown.
You ever wonder if we could sit down for 10 hours straight without anything getting in our way and really think of something that would I'll tell you this, I had this guy cut my hair for years, and I said, Raymond, he was Raymond Woods downtown. I said, Raymond, what did you have to do to cut hair? And he said, well, I had to go get a major in economics at Middle Tennessee University and a minor in business. And then I had to go to Florida and got a job teaching school. And then I had to sell copy machine paper for IBM. And I said, you had to do all that to cut hair? And he said, no, that's what I had to do. He had to go that route.
That was the path that led
That was the path that he had to take. So,
that's a really interesting question. What if you didn't have any accountability one way or another? Hey, how would you plan it out?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I asked him, I said, okay, but when did you decide you wanted to cut hair? And he said he was coming out of the grocery store somewhere down in Florida, and he all of a sudden was sick of it, and he turned in his notice for his apartment and drove back to Cleveland and decided what wanted to be his lifestyle, and then thought of the career that matched that.
Oh, okay.
Rather than just the opposite.
Yeah, he worked it backwards.
Yeah. Just ingenious, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty smart.
So he was cutting hair.
I mean, working at UPS gave me some, like I said, it taught me how to work hard. It really did. Mm-hmm. I was always proud that when I came home, I was tired, my hands were dirty, and I had done a day's work.
And you'd been outside. There's a big deal about being outside and wearing shorts.
Yeah, I had met a lot of people. I knew people in all different kinds of businesses. I had contacts that way. I had a company that was saying, hey, we want you to stay here. We think you could we think you could be a valuable person to us. That made me feel good. Put me through school, gave me good benefits. When I look back at it, Dee, I have a lot of gratitude for that career. I do. But once you're young and you make a little money, you tend to become very loyal. So leaving there was I never really considered it real hard. I just thought, man, what would but I can do this. I'm good at this. And
the longer you stay, the more retirement you get, I guess.
Well, it kind of works that way. You know, you always have 55 circled when you're in management. Yeah, you can go at that age. I didn't expect to go at 55, but
did your wife's death speed this up, or was you already thinking about it?
No, it was very much a factor in it. When I turned 55, Angie and I were in the hospital, so that we were fighting for her. So once the dust settled and I was able to kind of gather myself afterwards, I began to pray about what to do next, and decided I didn't want to make any quick decisions, and I didn't. So several months later, I kind of arrived at that. But
so it's going to be a new chapter for David Goodwill.
It will, yeah, it will. It will. Not sure where, not sure what that's going to look like.
Well, you obviously have got some, you speak well. You've had a good career, so there ought to be something. You might do something totally different.
I may do that. The same Lord that brought me through everything, I know will bring me through this. So I'm just excited. I mean, Cleveland, Tennessee is a great place to be looking around. I mean, there's things happening in our city that growth is happening and people are going to work, and there's just some good things happening around here. Selfishly, I'd love to wake up every day and know I didn't have to drive Chattanooga. I pay the same at the pump as everybody else does, and I don't like that.
Do you you work off Shallowford?
Yeah, right off Bonnie Oaks Drive. That's where my office
is. So that's a 25, 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, from Cleveland, and then I'm about 10 minutes more out into the country.
Yeah.
From out there. But
what time did you get home of the afternoon? Like 6 or 4?
I would leave. Well, if I was working during the day, and it was pretty late. I mean, when I was in the package division managing the door-to-door guys, I'd get home at 8 o'clock at night and leave at 7 in the morning, leave at 6:30 in the morning. That's a long day, and I did that for years. And sometimes when I look back at the hours I put in, I didn't know that I was going to lose my wife, and I just think, God, I wish I'd have had some of that time back. But
did you have to work Saturdays too?
No. Saturdays and Sundays are a recent thing that are starting to come just because of what the market's making us do. We're out there now on Saturday.
Prior to that, you could work till 8. Did you have to work sometimes Friday nights till 8 o'clock?
Yeah, sometimes.
Because it just takes that long to get everybody in. And
it is. You're also preparing for the next day. But what I was able to do, the longer I stayed there, the more flexibility I was able to, I don't need to be the guy I don't need to shut the lights out tonight, So if I was going to a high school football game to watch my daughter direct the band, or if I was getting together with some friends, I could usually make that happen.
But you have to start in the morning trying to factor that in.
But when I worked in Cleveland, if I didn't have enough drivers that day, I'd go jump into a uniform and I'd go deliver that route. I did that lots and lots of times. And Angie got to where she didn't even ask me anymore, what'd you do today? Because somebody'd say, hey, I saw, I ran into David today over on Dalton Pike, and she was like, oh, Lord, he's going to be late,
Yeah, and you're just delivering a package or something.
Yeah. But that's what my job, that was part of my job. And later I learned how to staff it better to, get to where it didn't change my day to the tune of
Wouldn't that
9
be
hours
something
when the telephone rang,
Wouldn't it be something if you lived in Cleveland, you drove to Cleveland to get in the truck to drive back to here, and your route was in Cleveland, then you had to drive back there and then come back home? That'd be crazy. I'd have my head messed up.
Well, I did it a lot, but we would have. I mean, being a UPS driver is a pretty good job. I would have drivers that lived in Polk County, and their delivery route would be in Polk County, but they would drive to Cleveland. They'd get in their UPS truck, go back to Polk County, run their route, drive back to Cleveland, put their car at the center, punch out, and drive back out to Polk County. We have guys that routinely do things like that. He wanted his delivery area to be near his house because that was where he knew everything, so that's what he did.
Yeah. And it was not that bad, but driving to Chattanooga would be more annoying because around 4 o'clock you can't hardly get out of Bonnie Oaks.
Yeah, it takes me. Yeah, I have finally just call it an hour. If I need to be at my office at 8 in the morning, then I leave my driveway at 7.
And you get there usually. You ever eat at the City Cafe there?
I do from time to time.
That's a good place to eat, isn't it?
Yeah.
You ever met that owner?
No.
I was.
Same one in Cleveland?
No different one.
Okay.
And
well, it's hard to walk past those pies and cakes.
Yeah, it is. They make their pies up here in Riceville.
At the place right there at Exit 42?
That's where they make the pies and cakes.
Yeah, those are incredible.
Yeah. So do you think that you're going to be excited about this new chapter?
Oh, I am. I very much am.
What if you get into whatever you're doing and you get regrets and it, you've been doing this for 34 years. That's a long time.
I haven't even thought about that. I haven't. I've got, just because I've worked there a long time, have a lot of experience, doesn't mean they can't do without me there. I would much rather circle the date on the calendar and go out the way I want to than have it be a couple of years down the road and then, hey, Dave, just come in and answer the phone, be a big help. I want to go.
Right.
I want to go out being relevant and having good relationships with people, and that's what I feel like I have.
After you've been around certain people a long time, the relationships can start eroding, can't it?
They can, and it's something that I believe in very much is maintaining those relationships with people, and not just people that I work with, but those are my friends and my family, people I go to church with, people I go spend time with outside of work, people I go hike, fish, run with. Those are the people that have really, really got me through the last several months. And I believe in picking up the phone. I believe in writing a note. I believe in going to coffee and going to breakfast and
Can you name those people, or are there just too many to name?
Well, anytime, Dee, of course, once you've lost your parents, anytime I see somebody in town that knew my parents well, I feel there's this something inside me going, hey, David, go over and shake that lady's hand. Tell her who you are. And it's my mom saying, hey, you remember my mother was Jean Goodwill. She worked at Bradley Memorial, and they will just, I love your mother. And it didn't cost me a thing to do that, and it feels good.
What did she do at Bradley Memorial?
Mom was a medical technologist and worked in pathology and microbiology.
My mom worked there, Dee Burris.
Is that right? I bet you my mother
probably knew each other.
Yeah. That was, Mom retired.
My mom did too.
In the late 90s, early 2000s. And she worked for Dr. Scruggs and lots of the other doctors, back before they made TV shows about things like CSI and stuff like that. Mom was involved in
Fenton's dad.
Yeah,
right?
Fenton's dad. It's another bike riding guy.
Yeah, you ever see him anymore?
No, I haven't in a long time.
We'll see him next week. Isn't that funny how you ever think about somebody and you hadn't seen him in a long time, you'll see him like twice the next week?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah. No, he was my age, a little bit younger than me. But the same way.
Are you sure?
Fenton was about 2 years younger than me.
That much? Maybe
I'm
just
guessing.
a year.
Maybe a year. He was a Cleveland High kid, and his sister Sophie was Angie's age.
I didn't know her.
Yeah. But same thing with my dad. If I see people that were friends with my dad, I have to go over and tell them who I am. And lots of times they'll recognize me because I look a lot like him. But those relationships to me they are sustaining to me. That's what I really love. That's what I really love, is seeing people.
Relationships are the currency of life.
They sure are. Yeah, I believe that way too.
That's all we
I
got.
might steal that from you, Dee. And sitting down and having a conversation with somebody is, to me, better than watching a movie, better than watching a ball game, taking a walk with somebody. That's the stuff right there.
It's therapeutic, isn't it?
It is. It is. You can listen to this show and not be in a hurry, not have to worry about a commercial. You can, hey, I know that guy a little bit, but he's going to sit and talk to Dee, and maybe I'll listen to that because I'd like to get to know that guy a little better and things like that.
And if I've got them here, I'm interested in them. Because I couldn't talk to you if I wasn't interested in you.
That's true.
I mean, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You dated Wendy Bledsoe too, right?
I did, yeah. She was my high school girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah, because I lived in West Eldridge and she lived in Creek Bend.
Yeah, she lived right there on the corner, yeah.
Yeah. You ever see her anymore?
Yeah, I run into her in town every once in a while. I see her husband, Donnie, all the time.
I never see her. We'll see her next week too, right?
Oh, is that right?
I mean, when you mention somebody, we always see them the next week, seems like.
Yeah.
When I hadn't thought of them.
Yeah.
So what do? Do you say you hike some?
I do, yeah. Angie and I have 2 golden retrievers. We just have one now. I lost one. He got sick, but...
well, you've had a rough year, hadn't you?
Yeah, it was a kick in the teeth, man. It really was. But what she and I enjoy, Angie and I still enjoy, I just like to go hike. I like to go out to the river. I like to take my golden retriever out there, let her swim.
Whereabouts?
Usually up the Hiwassee. We will go out
What
there.
area?
I will go up there, Dee, and I'll go up to Web Store, turn left, cross the bridge.
Go the swinging bridge?
Yeah. I go up to Childers Creek Road and go up to that bend up there, and there's a little parking area, and there's a trail that runs right along the Hiwassee. And whether the water's up or down, I like to go out there.
And the dogs will run, they won't get away from you?
No, I keep a leash with me. I don't want to be the guy that's dogs are running wild.
Yeah, because it's too chaotic.
Yeah, but Angie and I were early morning people, and man, we used to go up there, Dee. I'll tell you what we used to do on Sunday mornings, before church, before anything. Angie and I would get up early, and she'd make us some biscuits and sausage or something, and we would pour ourselves a big cup of coffee like this, and we'd load those dogs up, and we'd go up to the Hiwassee. And lots of times it was before they turned the powerhouse on, and it'd just be the riverbed up there with all kinds of little puddles and stuff, and we'd let those dogs run. And
nobody fishing at that point, right?
No, barely anybody even out.
Yeah.
I mean, you could swing by Hardee's and grab something if you wanted. That's about the only place open.
Web Store wasn't open by then.
And we would go up there and we used to take folding chairs and set them up in the river, right on the riverbed, and watch that sun come up and watch our dogs play. And that's what we would do. And, pretty soon we knew that, about 10 o'clock, that water would start rising and we need to get out of there. But
did you come back and go to church then?
Yeah, we'd come back and start our day. We were just early morning people. And
like what, 6?
Yeah, like that. And
you set an alarm clock or just get up?
No, never have had to set one.
Do you wake up like 5 or 6 every morning?
I do, yeah.
Wide awake?
Yep, ready to go. The only frustrating thing is all the stuff I got to do, heck, ain't nobody open. You gotta wait, But,
yeah, Walmart's open, right? Or,
yeah.
Or
yeah,
CVS.
They
or
used
Walgreens.
to be. Walmart would be open, but I would get it. I just get it. I start the day early. It's an old habit, and I end the day early too.
What time do you go to bed?
About 9 o'clock. I mean, people always talking about TV shows that they watch, and I'm sure that's good, but
You go to sleep with the TV on?
No. But there's stuff now that there's series and there's streaming. There's stuff that I like to watch once in a while, but I don't spend a whole lot of time in front of the TV.
But wonder what makes you get up early. I'm not an early riser.
Well, for years, Dee, my job made me get up early.
The 4 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And my first day at UPS, I had put in my application. I'd had a quick little interview. I had a background check, and I knew I was going to be getting up and working on a dock at 3:30 or 4 in the morning. I just didn't know when it was going to start. And they said, "We will call you when we're ready for you." And I go, "Okay." Then my phone rang at 3 o'clock in the morning. "Is this David Goodwill?" I said, yes, it is. They said, "If you want to work, if you want this job, then be here in an hour." And that's how I started. I didn't even know I had a choice. I guess I better do this. And I swung my feet out of bed and went to work. So maybe that habit stayed with me.
Yeah.
Maybe it did.
Web store, boy, isn't that the neatest place?
No, there's no place like it. You can still get Coke in a bottle over there.
Coke in a bottle. And the gas pumps, I still get gas there sometimes, but boy, they're slow.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
You almost, if you leave your car on, it'll go out for the faster it's going in.
I know. But I had a lot of fun on that river growing up. And,
if you go up and take a ride on Childers, they got a convenience store there.
Yeah, that's the little bait and tackle. That's a nice little place too.
I've never been in it. What's it like?
You should go in there. Yeah.
Well, they got is it like a convenience store also?
It is. It's real. It's very similar, but they're also a fly fishing outfitter. They're an Orvis location, so they have all this nice stuff there.
So they have gasoline too, right?
They do. You can buy gasoline and just regular camping supplies. Now they have, they have snacks and little stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But we used to go up there. Angie and I would go on a New Year's Day hike every year. We would get up and go and hike to some destination somewhere. And I remember being up there one year, and the little folks that own that Hiwassee Bait and Tackle, they would make some kind of traditional New Year's Day meal in a crock pot, like a big thing of pork with some black-eyed peas and turnip greens.
I think you can eat lunch there too.
Yeah, they do sandwiches and biscuits and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a neat little place.
It's a lot cleaner than Web Store on the outside.
It is. They keep it kind of sharp, and it's also they have campsites right around there. But
there was a place up there on the internet when you go across the bridge and take a right in that little road down below. There was a cabin for sale, 4 bedrooms, 465,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. But I thought, why would you buy something like that? Because you just have to worry about it. Yeah. I'd rather go up there and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It could almost ruin the experience.
Almost. Yeah. It's not for everybody.
I mean, if you go, you can just go, pack up and leave. You're not worrying about the yard mode or anything like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that UPS will start delivering from drones?
Well, we already have to some extent. I mean, that's a real thing that we're doing.
Right now?
No. Right now, the pilot program is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They are delivering within a structured community. There's a little medical community that belongs to the university over there in Winston-Salem that we deliver COVID supplies by drone, just as a pilot program to see if it works. And it's been pretty successful, but we can't just decide we're going to go to Manhattan tomorrow and start delivering by drone. But
does it have a camera on it so you can see if anybody's trying to shoot it down?
I have no idea what it's like. I just get a press release from it once in a while, and they show a picture of it. And my company's really proud of that program because it's very cutting edge. But I don't know if the day will ever come where you'll decide you want a pizza and go like this, and a drone comes and appears and brings your pizza.
I wonder if the drone can carry something heavier than it is.
I don't think so.
Think it?
Yeah, these are what it's bringing. What we're delivering medical supplies.
So it's
with it right now
or something.
Yeah.
Ivermectin.
And yeah, I remember. And the thing about that makes it, there's a couple things really attractive about it. I mean, if you're delivering medication, you don't have to deliver it with dry ice. You can use, if it's a drone, they can use a gel pack that keeps it cool. But it's just for us. I mean, the time in transit's, literally seconds or minutes rather than sitting on a hot UPS truck all day. So
somebody's really sitting and studying this thing as it's.
I guess. I don't know who those people are. God
assume,
bless them, whoever they are, but it's not me.
Well, you'd think that would be the next coming thing. On the Jetsons, you ever watch the Jetsons?
Yeah, I remember.
Didn't they
that.
have things delivered by drone?
Yeah. The other day somebody posted something that had, at the beginning of that show, it'd say George Jetson. There's a little biographical thing about him, and he was born in 2022, so that guy's fixing to be born any day right now.
I didn't realize that.
Fun fact.
2022.
Yeah, that was considered the future whenever. Well,
he was a father.
Future,
so we're talking in 30 years.
Yeah. But I mean, our company, there's those, the things they're doing with drones are equal parts exciting and scary, when you start thinking about it. I was at the lake several weeks ago and talking with a guy across the bay, we were just shooting the bull, and all of a sudden we hear this buzzing. We looked up and there was one coming down. And he said, "Hey, Dave, is that your drone?" And I said, "No, that's not mine." He said, "Well, it's not mine either." And we got to kind of wondering who had it, where it was coming from. And it was a little bit, you're fascinated with it, but it was also kind of unsettling.
A little bit,
and it finally drew, I think he was out on a float. He kind of waved his arm up at it like this, and it took off, But
now they've got them where they're just the size of a butterfly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like for spying and stuff.
Yeah, I don't really keep up with them that much. But.
When you go back 30 years, say when we were at Stewart,
mm-hmm.
You went to the grocery store once a week. You didn't really mail packages unless you had a box.
It was a big event to mail something.
And you had to meet the mailman out there nearly to give him that big of a box. To using payphones. And now there's drones maybe flying over our heads. It's just more than we can really. What else can we imagine? Robots? I think that's going to be it. Robots.
Dee, do you remember when cordless phones first became a thing? That was a big deal, wasn't it?
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And you had to pull that antenna out.
Yeah, you could say, I'm taking my garbage to the curb right now. You were very proud of it.
I remember when my mother got an extra long cord for the phone. That was new technology.
Oh, you could.
It wasn't
stretch
this
it into
long.
Another room.
It was. Yeah, you could. It was like a.
Yeah.
You could talk on the phone and go to the refrigerator.
Well, the phone was a big. And it was a big deal in my house with 8 people living there, and 6 of them, 5 of them being girls. They all had.
Remember the rich kids had their own line. Remember that?
They did.
They'd have their own line. Oh, they got their own line.
I remember. I forgot about that.
I just now thought of it.
Yeah.
They say they've got their own line.
And if you looked them up in the phone book under their last name, it might say Children's Telephone.
Children's Telephone.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, "Give me a call sometime." And I was trying to get away from him. Hope he's not watching. And I said, "I'll call you." He said, "You don't have my number." And I said, "I'll look it up in the book." And I started walking off, and I thought, I don't even know if there is a book anymore. Is there still a phone book?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The old yellow pages.
I guess I gave myself away when I told him
Yeah, we don't have the Tennessee Trader anymore either. How are we going to get a carpenter or a plumber?
Do you remember going to the mall and getting little 45s of songs?
I do remember that. Angie and I would talk about that because at Cleveland High School, once in a while we would walk home, and at Cleveland High you would cross Raider Drive, and you'd go through the woods, and then you would appear in the JCPenney parking lot of the Cleveland
I
Mall.
got in a fight in that field,
that's where
one year.
That's where the fights would happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you'd tell somebody to meet you.
Yeah. But you'd go through under that fence to the back side of Lay's.
Yeah, you'd be there. And boy, Lay's had that big candy thing in the middle. Had all those big bins of candy,
And then they had those little. The Cokes were 8 cents. They had little
Is that
Cokes
right?
for 8 cents. I remember.
yeah.
And hot dog.
And then they had a record store in there, and caramel corn, and
Yeah, there was a whole shop for
Arcade.
caramel corn, wasn't there?
yeah, that's what that was.
The caramel corn.
Yeah,
Remember when that guy got killed in there?
I do remember that.
He worked at
Barely,
the arcade
yeah.
or something,
Yeah, that
and they
was a
found
bad
blood
deal.
all over the inside of the mall. I think that guy's still in prison
He may be. That arcade was down towards Rose's.
on the left
Yeah,
before you go in.
and there was a alley right there, and it had plumbing pipes coming out of the wall, and that's where I would lock my 10-speed up.
I think that's where they found that guy.
Is that right?
Isn't that terrible? How
Yeah,
I remember that.
But you know, Dee, when I was a boy, I wanted to bike real bad. I would save my lawn mowing money, and I went to Ed Cycles on Keith Street when I was about in the 7th or 8th grade, and bought myself a Schwinn bicycle, a brand new one. And it was the first bike I ever had that wasn't a hand-me-down yard sale kind of bike. My dad had, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but he kept me in a bike because that meant I could go and work and do things like that. And I felt like I was a king of the world.
Was there Schwinn?
I bought a Schwinn. It was a black Schwinn World. I loved that bike.
Was the world written in pink maybe?
I don't remember that.
Seems
part.
like they had or orange or something.
Before that, I had a Latour. It was a Schwinn Latour, and it was yellow, and it was a kind of a hand-me-down bike.
Had the gears down here.
It did right there, right between on the post going up where you'd normally put a water bottle now.
Yeah.
That's where they had them. Had Shimano shifting. I remember that. Those old cage pedals on it, and I thought I was something. But
They were dangerous, weren't they? When you couldn't get your foot out of that.
Get out, yeah. And
Boy, I bet you could ride fast on it with them, couldn't you?
yeah, never wore a helmet or anything. I don't remember
No,
that.
it would have been sissy,
But
wouldn't it?
no, it would have. But I rode that bike all over the place and bought it at Ed Cycles. I don't know how long ago if they still carry
Did you have
Schwinn
Coach
bicycles.
Underdown?
I did. He was my 7th grade gym teacher.
He was my 7th grade.
Made us
gym
climb that
teacher.
rope with a pad underneath it.
Boy, he was a real bad example of a teacher, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was
in my opinion.
Coach Underdown with a big whistle around his neck, and I remembered him pretty well. Yeah. Cleveland Junior High. The funny thing when you go back and remember what you did in Cleveland Junior High, one thing I remembered was I didn't have to. I could eat whatever I wanted for lunch. I could go in that cafeteria, and it wasn't just pushing a tray down the line. You could literally.
Yeah.
And that was I don't know why I remember that.
And they had the chicken noodle soup that had the real wide noodles. Remember that?
Yeah, it was probably pretty good.
Yeah, it had little carrots in it.
It had the
Really salty.
had the library in the middle, and all the class. Remember, you walked around that big. I loved Cleveland Junior High though.
I don't remember the library being in the middle.
Yeah, it was. That was.
That's right. It was open.
Yeah, it was just
Kinda
kinda
open.
Yeah, you didn't go to a different place for the library, but
That was you walked around the.
you did. Yeah. I played drums in the band. I remember that. I had Mr. Freitag, and we had I liked Cleveland Junior High. It was fun.
When I left. Bradley was a lot better school, in my opinion. What was your opinion?
I liked Bradley better, but it wasn't because I didn't like Cleveland. I guess when I really just decided about the freshman year, all my friends were going to Bradley for the most part, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go, and I did it, and never really looked back. But
You still go to First Baptist?
I do. I go to First Baptist, and then Angie and I, back about 2 or 3 years ago, we started going to the Mission Cleveland, which meets a smaller congregation that meets over at the old Blythe Avenue School where she used to teach. And
they have it on. They use it inside the school, don't they?
they do, yeah.
Yeah.
Right now we meet in the school cafeteria over there.
Is it? Would you say it's Baptist or?
No, I think if you put a label on it, I think they're Anglican, but
Anglican? What's that?
it's kind of like Presbyterian, I guess. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to all of that stuff, but it's a nice group that meets on Sunday afternoon at 5:00, and
Maybe we shouldn't even label what they are, right?
maybe not. That's how Angie and I got free our Sunday mornings to go up to the river, but it wasn't so we could skip church. I don't mean that, but
I'm not so sure you're not better off to go do something like that on occasions on Sunday mornings.
no, Dee, I wouldn't trade those. Those are good memories, and I think about them all the time. But the mission is a group of people that's very, very, very invested in that neighborhood over there, and in the life.
What made you start? Well, I guess she was teaching there, so you found out about it, right?
What made us do that? At the time, I was concerned. Angie had not yet been diagnosed with cancer, but because she only had cancer for 14 months, but we were just looking for something a little bit different. That's all, just something a little bit different. We both went to First Baptist and were married there, and that's where the majority of my friends are. And I just wanted to do something a little bit different.
I like a little smaller church myself.
That part was good, but I quickly found a lot of ways to serve at the mission and still do. So, you know what I do? I go to 2 churches. I don't care.
So you go to both of them?
I sure do. Yeah, I do, and it just feels right to me to.
You go every Sunday night or at 5:00 too?
I do. Yeah, I went this morning at First Baptist, and I go there. And it's not because I'm some kind of church junkie. I don't mean that. It's just my faith is real to me, and it's something that I cling to, and it's.
Have you always been that way?
I believe so. Mom and Dad were that way, and
did you get baptized early?
I did. Angie and I were both baptized when we were about 11 years old.
You and her stories is so close; it's unbelievable.
They do parallel.
You're walking home from Cleveland Junior High. You get baptized the same time, and that's incredible.
we were thinking. I was a part of a school trip back when I was a freshman. It was in 1981. It could have been 82. I don't remember. At Cleveland High, we got to go out to the Grand Canyon, and it was a big deal. It happened right at Christmas time, and Angie was on that trip, and her parents were the chaperones on my bus. If you would have gone up to little freshman Dave and said,
"Yeah,
hey, you better not act up in front of those two. Those are going to be your in-laws someday." I didn't know any of that. I didn't know I was going to marry Angie. But we had something special a lot of people just don't have. We walked we lived in the same town. We just had a lot of common experiences.
That's a love story in itself, isn't it? Really.
It is. And so a lot of people, they just don't get that. I had it, and I'm so grateful for it, And Cleveland, Tennessee, if you look at it, there are people can find all kinds of things wrong with it. And nobody has stronger opinions about their hometown than people who have never left it. They think things ought to be this way because they've always been that way. Well, Cleveland has a lot of faults, I'm sure, but I just love it. It's home to me.
Hello, I'm Dee Burris, and most of you know me as a general contractor. In October of 2020, I started a podcast that I call The Discussion with Dee Burris. Each week, I have conversations with interesting, informative, and fascinating people from Cleveland and Bradley County and the surrounding areas. You can watch the discussion at deeburris.com on YouTube and Facebook, where we would ask you to please subscribe. It's free for updates and notifications of new shows. It's no problem. You know, I drive down the road sometime and I see somebody and I know where they're going. You know, I know them and I know where they're going and know about what time they're going to leave there and where they're going to go next. And
You remember old Clifton Weaver?
oh, do I? I used to drive him home.
Me too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
From Shoney's?
Shoney's or Cracker Barrel. Most of the time it was Shoney's.
It was his birthday, right?
And
Didn't he always
yeah.
say today's my birthday?
And you know that old guy would call me by name. And
He wasn't dumb. I knew his
No.
daddy.
I never met his daddy, but
Oh, he was a great guy.
he would. I would see him at Shoney's, and you know he would say, "Hello, David," and I'd say, "Well, let's go, Clifton. Come on." And I even got to where, I mean, if my daughter was in the car, she'd sit in the back seat.
Oh,
with
yeah,
him.
he wasn't no
He was
problem.
so nice
but
to her.
in the beginning, I didn't. You know, I've always.
But he was so.
His name was Jim Weaver. He was a
Okay.
good friend of mine.
Is that right?
Yeah, he really was.
And you'd take him to his house over on Jordan Avenue. And
You know-
once in a while, he would tell me, I remember one time, he would say, I need to, you know, he'd always tell me if he was working or not, because he worked, you know.
He worked at that place on Durkee Road, right? Putting the
they make
stuff in.
corrugated boxes.
Yeah. No, he'd put stuff in bags.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, that.
He'd say, I hadn't had any work this
Yeah.
week, or, I got to
he'd
work.
put stuff in the, you know, like packaged stuff.
And I remember one time coming down Key Street, leaving Shoney's, going towards Deer Park, and he said, David, I need to go to the store. And so, okay, well, let's go. And he said, can you take me up here to the Rite Aid? And I said, okay, what do you need? You need me to go in? And he said, no, I've got my money. I got to get my aftershave.
Yeah.
And
You know, he's still alive.
oh, I didn't know
I
that.
think he is.
I didn't know that. But years after my mom passed away in 2001, I would see Clifton and he'd say, Dave, I seen your mama. And I just thought it was the sweetest thing. And I'd say, hey, isn't she doing good? He said, yeah, she's doing great. What a nice lady.
He'd say, I saw your mama.
That's what he'd say.
I have a,
Maybe he did.
his daddy, Jim, was a real good friend of mine. And when he knew he was going to die, he asked this friend of mine, I won't say who it is, if he would make sure that he took care of Clifton.
Wow,
And
what
when
a good man.
And when he died, he did take care of Clifton. He got him in a home and checks on him like once a week. Did you know that he didn't have a bathroom in there? He didn't have a shower except in the basement. He would take a shower from a hose coming out of the wall.
Yeah.
You know, I always thought it was a nice, you know, at least, because right now that house would be worth a lot of money, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends that moved over there, and I remember my in-laws had a little house just over there that they rented. That was really.
I wonder if he's still alive. I'm gonna find out if he's still alive. I think he is.
I don't know. There was a buddy of mine I went to high school with, and in our early days of being married and working places, once in a while he'd call my office to see if I wanted to eat lunch, and he would always say, "Tell him it's Clifton Weaver." He would always say that. And they go, Dave, Clifton Weaver on line 1. And I go, oh my gosh. You know. It was just a name that he knew I would respond to.
You know, Clifton would always go to church functions, even though he didn't go to that church.
Yeah.
He'd
Wednesday night supper.
He'd go like Tuesday nights, or if they was having a revival, he'd go to all the meetings and get a ride home.
He would. But Brad Benton and I were talking about him the other day, and you know how much
Brad,
time
I
he
guess
spent.
Brad took him home a lot, I bet.
Brad fed him a lot. But Brad
I'll
feeds a
bet
lot
you
of
he
people.
did.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, you know, and Brad's a great guy, great and a good friend to me. So.
You know, they've had that. I was listening to them on the radio on WCLE, and it said we've had some of our employees have worked here for, I think he said 34 years.
Yeah.
And I got to thinking, I think he does. There's that one woman's been there ever since I can remember.
Yeah, Dee, that's Melinda.
Now, let me tell you
And
this.
If I go through that drive-through, she knows what I like. She's a sweet girl.
You know who? See, I worked with her daddy,
Is that right?
Clyde, at Cook's Food Store when I bagged groceries. That's his daughter.
I didn't know that. I don't
Clyde's
know
daughter.
her. I just know that she was sweet. And she'd always ask about my family.
I stopped there Friday. I was going to go meet somebody, and I wanted to soften up the interaction. So sometimes I do that. It just helps. So I thought I'll stop and get a malt from there. And I thought, well, I don't want a very big one. I'll just get a small one. So I thought, well, I'll get this other person one. Because when you're getting ready to argue with somebody, it's hard to argue when you're drinking the vanilla malt.
You're just softening.
It's impossible.
Soften the edges a
It's
little bit.
impossible.
Right? Yeah.
So I said, give me 2 small ones. It was $12, but they were that big. And so I got there, and the person said, no, I'm on a fast or something, 24-hour something. And so I said, okay. Yeah. So anyway, I left them, and I drank both of those. And I had a sugar high for
that changed the rest of your
10
day,
hours.
didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a typical stop on a date night for me. We would usually end up there getting some ice cream or something. You know, going to Chattanooga was not something we did.
Like a 2-coner or 1-coner.
Oh,
or
just something. You know, just an ice cream cone. Now that I'm looking back on it, it kind of sounds sort of all American, but that's what we used to do. We'd go to the movies or go to a football game. Or
do you remember going to Fulbright and walking to Baskin Robbins from Fulbright?
Yeah, the old Dizzy Dean baseball days. And I've got some funny pictures of me in any kind of t-ball or football uniform. I can look back on those pictures now, and I can still pick out people that never left Cleveland, you know.
Never left. Some of them, I don't even know if I'd recognize them.
Yeah. When I look at those pictures, I played football with, the Cleveland City Midget League, and we practiced at Stewart School, played our games at Arnold School.
I was on the Steelers.
Oh, we hated you. I was a Packer.
I was on the Steelers.
Yeah.
I had mixed-matched socks.
We had.
I don't know why I did, but I had
Eric Calfee and Randy Harris and Mike Jenney, and we were the Packers, and we always played the Colts and the Steelers.
I was thinking
and the
about
Raiders.
Eric Calfee yesterday. What are the odds of that? And I hadn't thought of him in 30 years, and now you bring him up.
Yeah, he's doing really good.
Because y'all lived close to over there, I guess.
We did. We just.
He lived over the hill.
He did. He lived on the other side of Georgetown over there, and I think his parents had those apartments over there. Just a good fella, good family, and but if we were, we played our games at Arnold School, and I loved football back then. I really did, and I rode my bike from Stewart School to home, and Angie's sister was a cheerleader for the Colts. But anyway, I remember my football cleats being in those pedals.
A tight fit, I guess.
That's right. You'd
because you really couldn't get them out there.
Stewart School had a bike rack, and you'd have to walk across that asphalt, and with those football cleats on. And I remember getting my football uniform at Cooper's bookstore downtown.
Downtown, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they started letting us wear metal cleats?
Sort of.
It was plastic
I sort of
for
remember
a while.
that. Yeah, and I'll tell you what I remember, Dee, when I think about those days, I remember getting a new mouthpiece, and you had to put that thing in boiling water.
I remember I ruined my first one. I had to keep wearing it that way.
Yeah.
I ruined it.
That's what you do.
I don't know why I just didn't say, hey, I need a new mouthpiece.
You'd sit and chew on that thing.
Well, you had to put it in your mouth, but I did it wrong. So when I wore it, why do I remember that?
Well, we were just, we were indestructible back then.
Well, you just didn't think nothing about it. I guess I thought they were expensive. I don't know.
Yeah.
That hang that, see that knot right here?
Sort of, yeah.
Phil Pippinger.
Oh, gosh.
Came through the line and went,
yeah.
because they didn't have pads on them then. They were just those little straps.
Yeah, it just had a little bit of felt on the inside.
That's still a knot right there. Isn't that something all
Yeah.
these years?
Later on, I mean, I had a sore knee when I played football and tennis. And I never could, just something you lived with. You had a sore knee. And later on, after I got married, was a UPS driver for 10 years. And about 2013, it got to the point where I had to do something about it. I went to the doctor to get it looked at, and he goes, well, Dave, he goes, how old were you when you tore your ACL? And I said, what do you mean? He said, that thing's been gone a long time. And I said, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess when I played football when I was young, I always had a sore knee, and I have to tape it up. And he goes, we didn't know anything about ACLs back in those days. You tore your ACL. And I said, well, how in the world did I play tennis and run and deliver a UPS route with a torn ACL? And he looked at me and he goes, you were young. You can do a lot when you're young. You were just young.
But
you just
an
compensated
ACL,
for
when
it.
it's torn, it's a big deal.
Yeah, so I just had I had a knee replacement at 46.
Is that right?
46 years old. I was the youngest guy on that floor,
How long did it take you to get over that?
A couple months, but I mean, it's still.
Could you go to work or what?
Yeah, eventually. I was out of work for 8 to 9 weeks, and then I went back to work. But of course, by then I was in management, so I was going back to an office job. I wasn't.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's amazing. It's, no pain at all.
Does it feel like your regular knee?
Pretty much, yeah.
So you got metal in it?
Yeah. But I mean.
If you put a magnet on it, will it stick to your leg?
I've never done that. You got one around here?
No, but I wondered if it's metal.
Well, it doesn't do that. It gets me flagged at airports, but they're so used to seeing them now, that they don't even say anything to me when I walk through them now. Because at one time they gave me a little card to flash.
Oh yeah, that I've had.
Yeah, but I loved playing football and I loved playing tennis. Cleveland was a big tennis town, back in the late
Tinsley?
70s. Yeah. Yeah.
Was it Tinsley?
Well, you could play.
You could play at Deer Park.
You could play at Tinsley Park. You could play at Deer Park.
Cleveland State.
This was before DeVos Tennis Center down at Lee. But I thought I was a pretty good tennis player, and then I got to Cleveland Junior High, and all those kids that played at the country club, I didn't even know that thing was out there.
Yeah.
I'd been hearing about it, And
they already knew how to play.
Oh yeah. Then I was like, well, maybe I can't make the tennis team, but I was pretty good,
They had just started the tennis team about that time, I think.
Yeah. I remember all the guys that played tennis.
But people that play that stuff, they don't really become professional. So why even do it? At the time, everybody, you had to think that you're going to be some kind of professional and you're going to do that for a living. I mean, that's what we all thought, right?
Yeah, there weren't. I don't even think that back then you could get college scholarships to play the way they have them now, golf and tennis. And
we were all going to be Joe Namath. We just hadn't been discovered yet.
Yeah, kind of the same way.
Are you involved in any of these hiking clubs they have here?
I've never really done that. I have a group of guys that some of my closer friends that we used to do quite a bit of backpacking, and we'd put a pack on and go out and stay 2 or 3 days. And I haven't done that in a long time.
What do you do now for a hobby?
I still like to hike, but I mostly hike during the day.
Just day hikes?
Yeah, I've gotten to where I really like coming home, and I don't like sleeping out and doing stuff like that anymore.
You got kids?
I do. Angie and I have one daughter, and she just graduated from law school at University of Memphis.
Where's she gonna go?
Well, she has moved back to Cleveland and is staying with me right now, and she's hunting a job pretty hard.
You mean like in Cleveland as a lawyer?
In the Chattanooga area. She really likes that area. She would live in Cleveland and work in Cleveland if there was a job there, but she still hasn't taken the bar yet. Because
Why would she be a lawyer in Cleveland? A little more bigger firms there, I guess?
Well, I think that, with her making her own decisions about where she wants to live, I think she likes the Chattanooga area. There's a lot to do there, and she can come home to Cleveland and visit me. So
right.
think that's kind of where her heart is right now. But I'm very proud of her, and I play guitar and sing a little music, and I sing in a quartet.
Yeah. If you want residential or commercial plumbing, give Rick's Plumbing a call. Call Jason or Josh. They'll do you a good job. I use them. I've used them for years. They're no problem.
Come on, woo!
Man,
You ever watch Amos and Andy?
I've heard of
they
it.
came
I never
from-
really watched
well, that's
that
the
much.
funniest. You know, you'd think like Big Bang Theory's
Yeah.
funny. Not as funny as Amos and Andy.
Well, that's what.
It's funny.
If I could, I would love to have a radio show just because I like talking to different people.
Yeah,
I would really like that, but
it's interesting.
people don't understand. People, if I tell somebody that, it sounds like, well, Dave, you just like to hear yourself talk. That is not
No,
true.
it's not in there.
I just like to, for example, my mother-in-law has Alzheimer's and she's cared for at a full-time facility. So I would go to visit that facility, and I don't know anything about healthcare. I know very little about Alzheimer's, but I like to sit and talk to people. And I just like to go over and say hello to them, see if they say hello back, find out a little bit about them, even if they don't. Just having somebody talk to them seemed to lift them up a little bit. And Dee, I enjoyed that more than anything I've done in a long time. So I need to be thinking about things like that right now, you know. It's just something I think about, you know.
Well, I wish that I was in your position and getting ready to change everything I was doing and could just wash my hands of my other job, and I can't do that. So you're very fortunate to be able to do that. I mean, I'm stuck. You know, if I was to quit today, it'd take me 2 years to finish.
Yeah. Well, I remember listening to, you know, I even like listening to shows on the radio that, you know, that one they do them one on Talk Radio 102.3 Saturday mornings where they're the Saturday morning garage. And the guy will call and say, hey, I've got a
Oh yeah.
354 barrel. I got to
Yeah.
turn the points on it. And, you know, they've got these, and they're not professional
Yeah.
radio people. I just like to listen to it, you know.
It's there's something therapeutic about just having something on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like my guess, my hope is that anybody watching this, they're not sitting here trying to dissect what we say. We're in the background. They're doing their thing. They're just kind of listening to us on the background. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, Dee, and I don't know why anybody would get into too much of a argument over why did you have this person on or why did you have that person on? Are you trying to influence some kind of? That ain't what it's about. I don't think.
It's not what
I'm
it's
not
about
trying to
at
tell
all.
you what your show's
No.
about. It's just
It's just conversation.
Why not have somebody that's got a different opinion?
Oh yeah, like that. And you know, the ones I've found that you would have thought, oh man, they got a different opinion. People like them the most, and they're not negative.
No.
So everybody's got their good points.
I remember people. One thing I always admired about my wife, Angie, is she was a very, very positive person, but she had an absolute distaste for any kind of gossip. It doesn't matter if it was about somebody's marriage, if it was about politics, especially if it was about religion or something happening in the church. Just don't even come near her with it. She didn't want to be any part of it. And I admired that around her so much. And that's the way I want to be.
And you don't even know if it's true.
No, you don't gain anything from it.
And you don't know what people's situations are.
No,
You don't know everything that was going on at the time they made that decision. You know, I was friends with Toby McKenzie,
Yeah.
and he said something one time that I never will forget it. And I thought, because he was smart, and I said, Toby, I said, how do you get so good people to work for you? He said, well, Dee, he said, I hire people that are successful from where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
Not successful, but just successful from where they came from.
Huh, interesting. I didn't know him very well. I knew who he was.
But that was smart, I thought. You know, you take a guy that's rich and make him richer. What's the big deal about that?
Yeah.
Take a guy from South Meade, put him head of UPS in Chattanooga. That's success.
Well, wasn't the head, but but I had, you know, that reminds me of my dad, because I used to have to, and I was required. I had to show my dad my report card growing up, but Dad would always. It was the old paper report cards, if you remember them. They were rectangular.
They was
Really thin paper.
wouldn't they fold?
Yeah, sort of like
Yeah.
that. But it would have your semesters or your quarters
Manila color.
divided up. And
Yeah.
it would say third quarter, it would say 88. And then the next quarter, it'd say 86 or 92.
Yeah.
And my dad would always look at, he wouldn't say, well, what happened here? He would just look and say, well, you went from an 87 to a 91. That's what he would always say. Or, what,
Yeah.
Dave, you went from an 87 to a 77. He always wanted to know where you came from,
Yeah.
where you were going. When you said that about Toby McKenzie, I thought about my old man. I thought that's the way he used to.
About how old was he? Would he be in right now?
I'd have to do the math on that. Dad died in 2013, and he was 83 when he died. You know, so he would have been 92.
92. Was he in any of the wars?
No, he was not. He was in the U.S. Army, but he didn't serve. He didn't serve overseas or anything
Just
like
before,
that.
right before, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
his brother did.
Yeah.
Dad was a deacon at Westwood Baptist and took that very, very solemnly. I mean, that was a huge, huge calling for him. Back when, you know, deacons, it was such a thing of honor to serve. And
I don't know if it is anymore. Is it?
well, I'm not sure. I don't know much about it. I've never been invited to be one or anything or whatever they do. But Dad, you know, you took care of the sick. You took care of widows. You helped people in the body. That's what you did. And many, many Saturdays it was, I need you. I need you this week. We're going to go over and we're going to paint this house, or we're going to fix this man's car. And but that was kind of, I come from, you know, kind of like Lindsay Hathcock told you. I come from good people.
From good stock.
That's right, Mom and
Boy,
Dad.
Lindsay's a great guy, isn't he?
He is. Don't know him very well, but he was friends with my dad.
Is that right?
Yeah. I remember Dad saying that anyway. I remember delivering.
Wonder how they knew each other.
You know, I don't know. I'm not really sure. But I remember delivering supplies over to his house for Trip when he lived over off Georgetown Road. And it's neat. It's really been good to look back at the guests that you've had, ones that I've known and ones that I haven't known. Like, you know, General Crump I know pretty well, and Leslie Christian. It was great listening. I sat and listened to her a whole hour because
she's smart.
Went to school with her for a long time, and then her business really, really ministered to you know, my family there, being from hospice at Chattanooga. So,
you know, I've never gotten finished with one that said, boy, I'm just so impressed with that other person. And I think a lot of people are like that, no matter who you are. Everybody's impressive.
Yeah.
In their own thing. I mean, you're not a race car driver, but you're impressive in other areas.
Well, I really liked the show you did with Steve Lawson, because even coming and marrying into that family,
yeah,
it was great to sit. I
That's
mean,
right.
I thought, I just thought it was fascinating and interesting. If I wasn't even married into that family, if I was just a taxpayer and a voter in Bradley County and that was my sheriff, I thought it was interesting learning about the jail and learning about the different things that he has to deal with.
He's the kind of guy, no matter what he's in charge of, you could just forget it. He's going to take care of it or he's going to die. One or the other.
Yeah. Good family. And that was interesting to me to hear. It really was.
You know, you ought to run for politics. That needs to be your next thing.
Hey, I'll tell you who told me that. I was sitting there waiting to get a haircut the other day.
Where at?
At Sport Clips. I was over there sitting next to Ted Bryson, and I didn't recognize him because I hadn't seen him in a long time. So his wife was friends with my mom. And you can't sit and talk to him without him bringing up politics. And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I just came from early voting." "Oh, who'd you vote for?" He wanted to know who I voted for state senate and who I, all of that stuff. And he said, "Well, you seem friendly. Why don't you run?" Kind of kicked it off like that.
Well, you've got time now.
I've got a little.
Well, wouldn't that be a hard thing to do, is run for a public office?
Man, I look at it and I just think, God bless these people, because it takes such courage to do that.
Can you imagine running for the past, what's this next one? I guess it's next week, isn't it? August the 4th. Yeah. Can you imagine for the last 6-7 months, say, "How you doing? Vote for me, vote for me."
Yeah.
Trying to remember names, trying to be friendly.
I've never been interested in running for office, but I have a great amount of admiration for those that do, whether they win or not. And sometimes I'll look down through that ballot and I'll just think, these are important and hard choices, because we have some good people. We really do. I think we're blessed that way.
And if I don't look into the candidate pretty hard, I'll skip that vote, because I may be voting for somebody that, you know what I'm saying? I really try to think about it.
My wife was very interested in politics from being a young girl and having her uncles run for sheriff and things like that. She remembered being a part of their campaigns, and she said, "Dave, we would go down to the Holiday Inn South. That was election night headquarters for us, and we would sit and count the precincts coming in." She just loved that. I think the last rally she and I went to, Andrew Morgan's, one of his, over by the Greenway, because he's my neighbor, and his family is my neighbor. And she was very sick at the time, and I didn't even understand at the time how sick she was, but she wanted to go and support our friend.
Yeah.
And I remember when we got there, it was just the old fashioned shaking hands. You got barbecue and gospel music.
Yeah.
And she said, "Dave, this is like the old times. This is like the old times. I remember this kind of thing." And she was kind of laughing. We were in the car on the way home. She said, "Dave, the same people in Bradley County that have always gone to those," she said, "I recognize their faces."
Same people.
Yeah.
They eat it up.
Yeah. And I mean, in that race, we two fine candidates, hard to vote for.
Oh, yeah.
Hard to make a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, and I look at that race and I think we're just great. We should be grateful that we have these kind of men and women in Bradley County saying, I want to serve.
We're very fortunate, and I think it's up to us to try to keep it that way, because we could really mess it up. It's our generation that's supposed to make it better.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do. I'm working, so I'm gonna leave it up to you, because you're retiring.
Yeah, I'll get some things figured out. I'll be calling you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, old friend. Good.